All right. Welcome back, everybody. And today we are back again to discuss the whole potential of what I think is coming. So, as I talked about in my video yesterday, I talked about how I think the world is going into a very dangerous time. History is repeating itself as it always does. And that's why I say if you know history, you know politics. If you know history, then you know the world, you know how people work, you know how things are going to go. I mean, history often repeats itself. It never does in the exact same way or fashion, but it always does. All right, so then let's get into why I believe the world, what I think is actually coming. So yesterday I alluded to in my video about the Great Reset and what it actually is. From my understanding, well, let's just talk about it. First of all, let's just talk about it. Like how it started off with saying the main talking point you're hearing of the elite is you will own nothing and you will be happy. Now, you know, when that's said, that might conjure up some images in your head of like some sort of dystopian takeover or something, but that's not quite what it is. It's sort of that. I mean, it's going to share a lot in common with that, but it's not going to be quite that. The first thing that is going to be that I think is going to be done with it is conflict. Because the New World Order needs conflict, you see, to even happen in the first place. They need the excuse to drive all of us into a panic or a frenzy or an angered, whipped rage. Because the thing is, like, that's what's coming soon. In the United States and many Western countries, and in Eastern countries. Like, you're already seeing it somewhat in Russia, and you already saw it in the United States a couple of years ago. But what's coming is a massive rage fest that's going to be happening in the world. Like, people are just going to get angry, and they're not going to know how to take it out. And that's going to be the start of the Great Reset. It's the fall. All right, so the fall of the world that we currently live in. I mean, the world that we live in has been collapsing for like 7 years, as far as I'm concerned. Like, ever since like 2014, in my opinion, the world's been kind of collapsing. It's just you know, if you look at it, it's just only gotten worse ever since like 2012. It's only gotten worse. Like, I don't think anything's ever really gotten better. Like, sure, we've had a few maybe, you know, okay years here and there, but I feel like once we had the start of the Great Reset took place in 2016 when the elite mastermind the greatest election of all time, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Because before that point, I mean, people were already divided on what they wanted, but I think once that came around and the media just took off and ran with that election like no other before, that's when I feel like they put the Great Reset into motion, because that was the fall. That was the start of it all. Because in order to make a fall happen, you need to have divided people. You need to have people, you know, start fighting over really trivial things, but not focusing on the things that matter, like critical infrastructure, good education, competent wage growths. You know what I mean? Like, stuff that actually matters to build a nation, but instead you make people fight about if it's okay to say retarded in public, or if it's okay to say that's gay or something. Like, you make people start fighting about really petty ideological battles that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And, you know, a lot of you wonder, like, what's my stance on all that stuff? And I just tell you, I don't even care. Like, I don't care about race. I don't care about any of it. It's just nonsense. It's all just stupid stuff to me. It doesn't even really exist as far as I'm concerned. It's more just media talking points that politicians will use to drum up some controversy or whatever the Illuminati or whatever need them to say, basically. To me, it's just not real. Like, it's not us. Like, I feel like, you know, your skin color is just based off of a lot of factors, like where your ancestors originated from. If they originated from an area where the sun is constantly shining on them, well, of course their skin is darker. If your ancestors originated from an area like, northern United States, of course their skin is pale as the fucking snow. You don't get any sunlight here. It's not, race isn't even a gene. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. I already talked about all that in a previous video, but people ask me like, oh, what's your stance on that? And I'm like, I don't have a stance. I just don't care. I don't care about gay people. I don't care about racist people. I don't care about people I don't care about culture. I don't care about any of that. It's all just nonsense. And that's maybe just because I'm very, it could be biased too, because I'm a very big picture oriented person. I don't really care about the details. I'm more of like a just get it done kind of person. So that's why I said I could never be like the leader of anything, because it's like, I wouldn't care about like all these petty ideological things. Like I just wouldn't. I could. And if somebody was like, for instance, I was like the leader and someone was like, I don't like this person on the team, I'd be like, well, that sucks, get along with them anyway. And if they go like, well, they did this and this, I'd be like, I don't care, just shut up and do your job or get the hell out. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't really care. So if I was ever to be like a leader, I would need like multiple detailed oriented people around me, because I would need multiple perspectives, because I really only care about the larger goal of things rather than like the small battles that to me don't matter, but they do matter, I guess, if you're trying to build a society. But to me, there's never been a society. It's just a bunch of individuals trying to get by. There's never really been a whole inclusive society of people that are working together to push towards a better world. Like, that has never been a thing. To me, all society has been is just a bunch of people that happen to live in the same, landmass, and say, well, we can't just keep, can't fight each other all the time, so we'll just get by. But that's how, to me, that's when it all started. That's when it all started to go downhill. And then this whole thing next took its effect when COVID hit. Now, granted, I'm under the belief that there's probably going to be another pandemic shortly soon, like a different disease going around. I don't know why, but I think you can expect it in 2024. That's what I think. Don't know why, just feel it. Also, if this world is truly serious about COVID, and so for all my COVID stands out there that hate the fact that I have such a controversial stance on COVID, where it's like, I don't really even care about it. I don't think it's that deadly. First of all, I don't even think, unless you're old, you should be getting vaccinated at all. I think it's kind of pointless too, because you're not going to get anything from it. And you can be like, well, I'd pass it on to the other people, but it's like, well, dude, then why do we even wear masks? Like, why do we even bother? Like, why do we even bother doing all this nonsense if it's just, you see what I'm saying? Like, it seems kind of retarded, but, but it's like, okay, why do you even bother then? Like, if you're that afraid of doing that, then why do we even bother doing all these protective measures that we were doing before? Like, it just generally doesn't even make any sense. But whatever. Like, I'm not one of these people out here that claims that it doesn't exist or whatever. Like, to me, it does not exist on the scale that they say it does. Like, where it's like, oh, it's this deadly disease, and you need to be no. That doesn't exist. It's just basically a more advanced version of the flu. Because yes, it can kill you. It's not impossible. But to me, it's just more of an advanced version of the flu. Advanced does not mean the same thing, though. So, when people say it's just the flu, it's like, no, it's not just the flu. Because if it was just the flu, then we would just say it's just the flu. But it's like a more advanced version of it. So that's why it's... Either way, we're not here to talk about all that. That's just whatever. That has no bearing or meaning on the greater scale of things. It's just that was the next thing. Because usually when a society or a nation or even a world structure falls, it all starts with a pandemic. Because a pandemic or something like anything that we can't just be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can always like stop another human, but you can't stop a disease. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just I mean, yeah, you can get vaccinations and stuff, but that can't happen just like that. Like, that has to be produced, that has to be, like, treated and tested, and it takes usually, it can take, like, a whole year, as you saw. It can take a whole year just to make one vaccine for one little thing. And it's like, now imagine if COVID was even worse, right? Like, let's say it was, like, black flu level. You know how much death that would have been done in that 1 year alone? Would have been insane. But here's how you know that the elite are tricking you, and that this is all being one big psyop to basically create the new world order. At least the whole COVID aspect of things is part of that anyway. The first things first is, when Trump tried to get you all to take the vaccine, nobody wanted to. But then when Kamala Harris tells you to do it, you're all doing it. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, they're making it. And see, Trump is part of the Great Reset. He's part of this. He's part of the scheme. He's just he's the person that they want you all to rally against. And you know what I mean? Like, he's the guy that they know that can get all of their ideas into talking points, because he's such a popular figure that you don't even have to, like, you don't even really have to, like, care about anything politics or, like, world-wise to know who he is and know what he's about and know what he represents. Like, that's a very rare status to get into. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very rare status for one person to ever achieve. But that's what he's done, because he said the most, like, half the stuff that he says isn't even stuff that he believes. It's just, you know, elite talking points to drum up controversies to make you all keep fighting. While, you know, if you notice, it's not like, you know, it's like him and, you know, Trump and Nancy Pelosi and Biden and Mike Pence and, like, fucking Paul Ryan and Bernie Sanders. Like, all these guys keep getting rich no matter who's president. Have you ever noticed that? It's almost like when they, and you know what I mean, like, you know, they have secret meetings that we don't ever see on camera. I wonder what they say. It's almost like they fake being against each other to, you know, make you guys against each other. Because if you look at a Democrat and Republican, basically they're both just fans. Like, they're fans. It's like a Goku fan and a Vegeta fan. No, Vegeta's better. No, Goku's better. How about they're just both good? How about both of them are good and have their own points, and they should both be ruling respectively? There shouldn't be one side ruling over the other for, like, 4 years, and then because, like, for instance, right now, everything Joe Biden's trying to do, if he doesn't win in 2024, it doesn't even matter. His whole presidency was a joke then, because it's like, whoever the next president is going to come over. It doesn't even matter if it's another Democrat. The next president is just going to come in and take over and do all their own shit anyway. So everything we were just trying to do for 4 years is now just going to get thrown out. So all that money we just spent doing this and doing that is all going to get thrown out. And then someone else is going to do their thing for, like, 4 years. And then that's going to just not matter unless they win. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And then you eventually get to this point where it's like, where the United States is, where it's like, dude, we've never sat and focused on one thing. We've tried to do so many things. We're like the NCR from Fallout New Vegas. We've tried to put our resources into too much, instead of just focusing on one thing and doing that one thing very well until we do it right, and then doing another thing and doing that. No, we tried to do way too much because we did not foresee the future that we were laying for ourselves. We were laying the future for ourselves that if one thing goes wrong, everything falls apart, because we're trying to do too much. Granted, that was part of the whole plan, but it's still like, how did the people ever fall for something like that? That's just so ridiculous. Anyway, though, that's the second part, is the division, or that's the third part, is the division of the people. Or no, sorry, that was the first part. The second part is COVID. Third part is the collapse of, like, all of the societal structures that we need. Like, for instance, like, you know, these shortages are only going to get worse. Because, again, before you can do a reset, something has to fall. Remember, you don't have a reset unless something is completely falling apart. So I'm trying to get you into, that's why I'm repeating that over and over, because it's like, you need to be prepared for that fall. because they're gonna have a fall. Like, they're gonna orchestrate it all. It's all being orchestrated right now. Like, Russia's in on it, Ukraine's in on it. It's all big psyop. Like, everything is all controlled. They all have it going down the plan. And the way that you can tell that it's all big psyop is how come when this all first started happening, this whole war with Russia and Ukraine, how come when this all first started happening, 70% of the country was like, no, we need to stay out of it. We have nothing to do with it. And then the media, the elite's talking point, whether you're Fox News or your CNN or your fucking independent news, doesn't matter. The media then just basically started galvanizing people, going like, hey, look at what they're doing over there. Isn't that mean? And then all of a sudden, that 70% that didn't want to have anything to do with it is now saying we need to go in there and we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to be there. Isn't that interesting? Like how the media can just totally flip people's opinions without even like giving them necessarily the whole truth, just by telling you shit that they want you to hear, that they want you to see, that they want you to know. But they're not telling you what they don't want you to know. They're not telling you that, Ukraine is kind of a corrupt government and is kind of an imposter government. They're not telling you that Zelensky is kind of a dictator for making his people stay and fight. I get you. There were people that, like, I would say like 30% of that country wanted to stay and fight, and that's fine. But if you're going to tell everyone else that they can't stay and fight, that they can't leave, when most people, and I'm going to say this right now, most people don't care and don't have like a national identity. Like, sure, I'm an American, but only by happenstance. I don't even call myself an American. I just call myself a human of Earth. That's all I am. Not an American. I'm not a black man. I'm just a human of Earth. Out of millions or billions. I'm starting to almost believe that there's not even billions of people in the world anyway. But anyway, that's for a whole nother day. I sit here and I think about it, and I'm like, there's just no way that could be justified. Like, for instance, we like to criticize the draft here in the United States because it's kind of unjustified. You're going to force people to fight for some rich billionaire guy because we're not the ones that are going to win anything off this war. We're going to send our kids, we're going to send ourselves in there, and we're all going to die. Not all of us, but, people will die. And the only person who's going to gain anything off of that is not the American people. It's going to be the big fat cats in the White House and the fucking elite celebrities and stuff. It's going to be the only people that have any notice, any claim to fame. You know what I mean? You're not going to benefit off that. You see what I'm saying? Like, you aren't going to make any money. You're not going to get any better quality of life from that. You're going to have the same life that you had, but just missing some family members over a pointless war that they forced your family members to go fight in because the government says, no, you're going to save me. Instead of us saving you, you're going to save me, is basically what they're saying. And it's like, no, dude, like, that's, first of all, to me, that's evil. Like, that's the most evil thing you can do. You're forcing people they don't care. Like, they don't care. For instance, like, most people in America don't care about the government's larger goals. Like, if this place, I'm going to tell you one thing right now, if this place started falling apart and we're getting bombed and we're losing and everything's dying, I'm just going to leave. I'm not fighting for you. I'm not fighting for this land. I don't even own this land. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would I fight for this land? I don't even own it. So it's like, and I don't want to own it. Like, I don't care. It's just land. Like, to me, countries are just land. I don't even care about the culture and what they represent. Like, whatever. I don't care. I don't have a national identity. I just don't care enough to. So if, like I said, if this place started falling apart and this place was getting invaded and all that shit, I would just leave. I'm like, I ain't staying and fighting here. For what? For what? For what would I fight for? So the government can keep raping me, basically. So the government can just keep taking my money anyways. Like, nah, I ain't fighting. Like, they can fight. Like, if you want to fight, go ahead. You can stay here and you can fight and you can do whatever you want. I hope you win. Wish you the best. But I personally don't care enough to. I'll just leave and get a better opportunity somewhere else. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's what most Ukrainian citizens were wanting to do, because they didn't care to save the place, but they made it so if you're 60 or younger, you have to stay and fight, which is just insane to me. It's really insane. If anything, I'm surprised not more people are calling out that is kind of insane. But they're also not telling you the fact that Ukraine was putting bases in Russian territory, and then you had NATO, trying to, get Ukraine under their control, and then, they're not telling you the other reasons and the other perspectives on why this is going down, is what I want you to notice. They just told you what they knew people would be outraged about, simply is like, oh, look at these guys killing these civilians. And then boom. But it's like, I just find it funny that Americans hate that, because I'm like, we do the same thing. In fact, if not worse. Like, we send in literally bomb squads into places that don't even have a fighting chance against us, and our civilian casualties are through the roof. But nobody ever complains about that. Like, no one ever cares. But when somebody else does it, they're a bad guy. It's like, I just find it funny that we, of all people, would call anybody war criminals. Like, I'm sorry, but I just find it hilarious that us of any country are going to call people war criminals. It's like, what do you think we do? What do you? And this is what I say. Like, when you hear like, oh, the government or the Ukrainian soldiers were like torturing Russian captives or whatever, I'm like, well, what do you think the United States does? Do you really think that we are these holy warrior knights that go around protecting the innocent and saving the defenseless? And like, no, like, in war. Okay, and the thing is, I don't think the modern world is, because the modern world hasn't seen a world war yet. The modern world just hasn't. The 21st century just has not seen a world war. And the 21st century just hasn't even seen a conflict anyways that escalates beyond the Middle East. So we're going to talk about that for a second, because I think the modern world just doesn't understand. Like, that's why I say more people need to learn history. And I mean the true history of the world, not the spoon-fed bullshit that they teach you in a textbook, or not this whatever you looked up online on some random website that some guy says, oh, this is actually what I... No. I'm talking like you go into government documents and you see what the actual history was. Not what some guy thinks it is, not what it could be, not some conspiracy theory, no. You see what it actually is, the cold, hard truth, and you realize that the governments of the world are one big psyop, and they're the same kings and queens of the medieval days. They have just changed their fucking names and the structures of power that they utilize to keep us all in line. And the modern world just has not seen a war. And if you know what war is like in history, there is no smiling and, there's no games. There's no nothing. Like, it's like literally brutal. They will kill kids. They will do anything. And humans just don't, humans will do anything that they can to win a war. People will bomb hospitals. They'll bomb refugee camps. If that's what it takes to kill the remaining soldiers, it's war, baby. It's evil. I'm not justifying it. So just me explaining it to you does not mean I'm sitting here telling you like, oh, well, that's fine. That's cool. They should be able to do that. People should do that anyway. It's like, no, I'm just telling you, dude, you got to get tough, because the world's brutal. Just how it is. If you get emotionally outraged when you see that, that's because you've been too sheltered, been too coddled for too long. And whereas like I've seen that on the news before. I remember watching the Middle East stuff and seeing like multiple dead citizens from our bombings. It's a part of war. Civilian casualties are a thing. Why do you think I always tell you when I hear people say, oh, we should start war with these people? I'm like, you guys don't understand what you're saying. You don't understand the weight of the words that you're saying. Because the weight of your words cannot be matched up by most people's mouths. Most people that say we should go do this, fight these people, will never pick up a gun and fight themselves. They want somebody else to do it. And it's like, oh no, that's not how that works. If you want to do that, guess what? You're going to get drafted and you're going to be one doing that. So you better be on it then. You better be about it. Like, better be checking. Because right now I know a lot of Americans are cashing checks that their ass, like, they're writing checks that their asses just can't cash. By saying, oh, let's fight these people. And it's like, you guys don't even know what that would do. You guys don't even know what that would do. That would make pretty much anybody who's not a 60-year-old male have to go into the military. So unless you want to do that, I wouldn't be advocating for fighting any wars anytime soon. But yeah, so once you see that the people are being very manipulated as they are now, that's how you know the next thing of the Great Reset is coming, where they're going to have us all under their control. And be my guys, this is going to happen over time. Like, we're talking like the next 5 years. This is all going to happen tomorrow. Well, first of all, I wouldn't even know, obviously. Like, there's no way I would have any sort of prediction on that. So, but no, this is going to be something that happens over the course until 2027. So the next 5 years. But that's what they want to do. They want to have us all under their little control. And the only thing that you know is what they tell you. Why do you think they're changing education? And I'm not going to be one of those, Republican grandfathers that's like, they're trying to make your kids gay. It's like, no, that's not what's happening. They're changing education, but not just about gay or critical race theory or anything like that. They're changing it so that way they can tell you only what they want you to know about these things. So they're going to whitewash it, actually. They're not even going to teach you about other races. They're just going to whitewash it and kind of sit and forget about all the bad stuff we've done. They're going to throw it all out. Because they want you to know only what they want you to know. They're going to want you to know about, the only things they're going to keep in are the cornerstones, like slavery and all that other stuff that you kind of just can't throw out, because hell, there's people alive today that can still recall memories of that kind of stuff. So, you know what I mean? Well, you can't really throw that out because it's more of just a memory at that point. But what I'm talking about is they're gonna teach you about all this stuff, right? All this critical race theory, LGBTQ, and all these other things. I feel like that, but they're not gonna. How they're not gonna teach you about home economics. They're not gonna teach you about how to make a finance. They're gonna teach you about how to do all that. Because remember, you will own nothing and you will be happy. That is the plan. So they don't want you to have a finance. They don't want you to have any of that. In fact, that's why they want everything to go digital, because then you will actually own nothing. If everything goes digital, you will legitimately own nothing, because it's all on a cloud. It's all in a space controlled by a bunch of elite oligarchs. You don't own it. And why, it's kind of like video games. Remember when video games used to come in disc? Now they can just be digitally downloaded. But you can never sell that game. You can never do anything with it that the oligarchs who made it will never allow you to do with it. Whereas if I had a disc-based game, it doesn't matter what some rich punk thinks. I could just sell that game for however much money I wanted to. If you know what I'm saying? So you will own nothing, but you'll be happy, because they want us to, first of all, be under their complete control and only know what they want us to know. And so it will be that sounds dystopian, but the problem is it's going to be like a fake utopia. Because everyone's going to be walking around with their little digital worlds and be happy, but you won't. The human element of everything is going to be gone. You're not going to be having all these things, doing. You won't even probably have to learn. I feel like in 5 years, you won't even have to learn how to drive a car, because we'll just have self-driving cars, and you won't own them. They'll just come pick you up, they'll drop you off wherever you want to be, and then boom. Oh, self-driving cars are already a thing, actually, so I shouldn't even say, but I think they're going to be more popularized in these 5 years to come. Think of it almost like an Uber, but it's that's just how everybody gets around. Everybody has their own little personal designated self-driving car, and you just hop in, it'll take you to work, and then it'll come get you afterwards, and then you get in, and then you leave, and then... Oh, and the roads will be designed around that too. It's just the way that the world is going. It's just, everything is going to be digital. The human element of stuff is going to be gone. They want us all to basically be robots. They don't want you to own anything. Also, automation, like I said, is just going to take jobs away anyways. Because I can see a future where DoorDash and all these jobs are gone in 5 years, because there's just going to be self-driving cars that can just do those jobs. So why even have a human doing that? when it's like, because then you also cut out the human need of it, because if you notice, most people they don't like to interact with others. And that's another trend of the Great Reset that was started as well, was over time, I would say ever since the 1980s, they've gotten us more and more to try to be super individualistic and not talk to each other. And COVID's only heightened that way, where it's people genuinely don't like to interact with others to the point where it's my generation's kind of the biggest example of this, how most people that are my age are super shy and timid and don't have any sort of balls to them. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but that's just how people are. Most people are very shy and timid and don't ever speak their mind. They'll speak their mind around people like me or that they call friend, but they will not, for instance, most people at the bar will only stick to their clique. Whereas I'm the type of guy at the bar that I'll just start talking to everybody. I'll just start having fun. I'll just start doing whatever. And people think it's weird almost. They're whoa, this guy. And it's no, it's just confidence. That's all it is. It's just having some balls to you, knowing that you can talk to anybody and anywhere, anytime. It's nothing weird about it. It doesn't take a really stellar person to do that. But that's just because it's been so normalized not to talk to anybody who you don't know. Yet you're supposed to be on these social media platforms. That's supposed to be the purpose of those. But it's well, then why? You see what I'm saying? Why are we even having all these things if we're not going to be more social? And that's where social media is meant to create narcissism, and that's for a different video. But that's for a different video. But all I got to say to that is social media is for losers. It's for losers who don't know where the real world begins and where their internet fantasies end. It's for people that have no real friends.
The only part that was a little bit thinner was right over the top of your cover.
Okay, sorry about that. I had to take a sip of water. Anyway, yeah, no, these videos get very drawn out. So the next part of the Great Reset will then be after I would say around 2025, when the world is, climate change is tearing everything apart, food shortages are happening, everybody's breaking down, divisions are being spread. In my opinion, January 6th was only a precursor to what I think 2024 will be, a massive revolt. Because the problem is, unless World War III happens, the next war is going to be revolutionary war on the United States. Because that's why do you think the government's pushing so hard for World War III? Because they need it. It's all part of the Great Reset's plan. The only thing that'll stop the Great Reset is if World War III doesn't happen. But it's going to, obviously, because Russia's part of the plan. And, you know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. But, and then notice, if you really think that, these guys aren't part of the plan, yeah, that's why the leaders aren't out fighting. Remember the old days when, the general would be out fighting, the king would be out fighting with his soldiers? You ever notice how that got changed now? The president just fucking sits at the White House and sends his pawns in? Ever notice how Vladimir Putin isn't out there fighting? It's his pawns. It's not Zelensky himself fighting. He's telling his people that they need to stay and fight and save him. Ever notice how just those people never seem to get in any conflicts? Yeah, no, they're part of the plan, guys. They if they weren't, they would be fighting with their people, but they're not. You can say, well, they need these people to stay alive during these times of conflict. No, you don't. You can usher in a new leader anytime during war, because it's going to be the same result. We're going to be fighting to kill these people. It's not anything different. And you might think, well, what about it's about after? No, it's not. When you're in war, it's about the immediate. It always is, because war never changes, first of all. But no, you don't think about what after, because you can't assume you're just going to win a war anyways. So you have to be always in the now when your country's at war. It really is always about the now. I mean, yes, you can look at things and try to predict, but war is so unpredictable that it's impossible to really do that. So that's why I say you gotta just stay up and stay ready. But that's kind of the last phase of the Great Reset. Is either there's going to be a revolution, which they'll just stamp us out and then just make that Great Reset happen anyway, or it's going to be World War III, because people are going to be broke They have no money. They're gonna own nothing, and they're gonna be angry, and they're gonna need someone to point the blame at. And when that happens, after everything and after all the dust settles, you'll be here sitting down in your little cubicle, owning nothing and being happy. By 2027, the whole outside world will be screwed over, and the digital world will then be what we all use to go on and on with our daily lives, and that'll be the end. Anyway, that's just what I foresee coming over the years. I foresee massive famine, massive war, just massive destruction, and as the world continues to fall intentionally. And then they will own the elite will own all the land, they will own everything, but they will then just spoon feed us all this garbage. Like, they'll spoon feed, okay, what they'll do is they'll give you imagine the world as a pizza. The elite will basically be eating that entire slice of pizza, but they'll be like, the peasants need something, so we're just gonna give them the crust. But because the world will be so fucked, you'll be happy just to get that crust. Just to get the crust. Not even buttered flavored crust or garlic or anything, just crust. Plain, stale crust. And you'll be happy though, because you can't get anything else anyways. Okay though, but that is the end of this video. This is what I think is going to happen these next 5 years. It's kind of already written on the wall. It's kind of been said. It's kind of been in stone. They're already talking about it. You know what I mean? It's the problem is people just have no clue, because everybody's so obsessed with the next big thing. You know what I mean? And nobody actually doesn't understand why that big thing is tied to stuff that happened in 2015. People kind of just forget about that part of, our lives. Like, I feel like nobody ever talks about it, but it's like, dang. Nah, all this stuff really did start in like 2016, 2015, if you really think about it, if you really look back. But it's because of 2020 that we all look back and say, oh no, it all started in 2020. And it's like, no, this has been going on for years. Technically, this has been going on for like the past 50, 60, 70 years. I'd say anytime after World War II is when you can truly say that the elite have had this plan to basically engineer the world to their liking. And I can go on and on and on, like the war on drugs, and why marijuana was illegal in the first place. Like, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. Problem is, this video would last for hours if I started talking about the whole plan, the whole script, the whole everything. And I don't want to make this video for hours. But I think I've said enough of this video where the people that are actually, able to piece things together can understand what's going on. Like I said, if you don't agree, if you just see it differently, that's fine. But I'm just here because it's like, I'm just here saying all this because I truly do believe that this is where the world is heading. I mean, that's the rhetoric being spit out by the elite. And I'm not talking about the Joe Bidens and the Donald Trumps. I'm talking about the people who actually run things in this country. The tech oligarchs, the people that own land, the people that own water, the people that own all these resources that you need to survive, they're all saying this. The people that produce food are all saying food shortages are coming this summer. You know what I mean? Like, this year is the start. I mean, 2016 was the start. 2020 was the middle, and I would say 2025 is when you're really going to see just how destructive this whole plan actually is. And then by 2027, we'll all be here just living in our little digital worlds that Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and whoever else owns a tech oligarch fucking company is going to engineer for us, and we'll all be happy, and we'll only eat crust. We'll get the crust of the pizza, and because the world's so fucked that you'll be glad if you just have the crust. And you'll be happy, and it's all engineered to be that way. Anyway, this video is going to come to an end as we've been going on 40 minutes. tomorrow, expect another video about our favorite little game known as Fallout 4. Nah, I'm just kidding. Fuck Fallout 4. But yeah, we'll be doing a video on Fallout 4 tomorrow because I actually have a lot to say about Fallout 4 in particular, because I've never really talked about it, but why I don't like Fallout 4 and why I hope Bethesda is taking a different direction, why I'm so glad Bethesda with Starfield, like the big trailer that was released about a week ago or whatever, where like skills are being brought back and all that stuff. Because listen, man, we got to talk about Bethesda tomorrow. There's so much I need to say about how I hope the future of what I think the future of RPGs and video games is going to be, and why I don't think video games will be that cool much longer. Because gaming, to me, like I don't think I've played a new video game or even cared about a video game since fucking Skyrim. Like, it's been a long time since I've had a game where I'm like, oh man, that game looks so cool. Like, The Outer Worlds was probably the only game that I've recently played that I actually had any interest in. So like, when I see The Outer Worlds 2 being a thing, I'm like, okay, kind of interested in that. But outside of that, I'm like, I don't even think I'll get these new consoles. They seem lame. There's no games. Where's the games? PS5, you're lame. The PS5's lame. Like, there's no games. It's just a graphics upgrade. You got no games. Where's the games, Xbox? I mean, you can be like, well, we're only 2 years into this generation. Okay. Well, 2 years into the Xbox One and PS4, we had some pretty good games. Plus all the backward compatible games. 2 years into the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, we had some pretty good games. I mean, I can go on and why I think the world is truly ending. Or not ending, but like gonna go through a reset. And video games are kind of part of that, actually. But yeah, no, video games, in my opinion, have gone so downhill. They've changed to be something I don't even like to play anymore. Like, I don't like Fortnite. I don't really like these battle royale games like Call of Duty Warzone. And they're just not. These are not games that I think are even warranted of spending $2 on. Because compared to what we were getting in the past, these games are crap. And anyone that says otherwise is just lying to themselves, or is probably a media sellout. But if you like, I'm not telling you can't like something though. I'm just gonna tell you though, what we were getting in the past was just better, objectively better. There's no subjectives. But right now, just know this. If good things are happening to you, or if bad things are happening to you, it won't last forever, neither good or bad. So that's why you need to prepare for bad things to happen. Because even if things are going your way right now, like I said in my last video, this economy is going downhill. And it's intentional, by the way. It's intentional. They're doing this on purpose. And when that happens, these companies are going to make less money, and they're going to lay people off, just like they did in 2020. So you might want to be prepared for that. You might want to make sure that you have something in your arsenal up your sleeve in case that happens. Like, okay, at least I got money for this month before I can find another job. So I got a whole month to find another job before I really have to stress. So, or you might have to get a pay cut. Like, you never know what your company is willing to do. So it's best to be prepared anyways. With that being said, yes, that's going to end this video. Oh, well, seriously though, go outside, you lazy kids. I mean, I know there's probably no kids watching this video, because if you're on YouTube, well, you can't watch a video where anyone is swearing or talking about politics, or talking about anything. It's kind of interesting, isn't it, that kids can't even be kids anymore. Kids literally just are now being turned quite literally into robots. They only know what we want them to know. They can't go search that information for themselves anymore like we were when we were kids. You know, when Gen Z was kids, we could go search whatever we want on the internet. Isn't it kind of funny now how the internet's being super regulated and policed, and you can't, and there's people literally going around banning you and telling you what you can and can't say and opinions that you can and can't have. I'm saying, isn't it interesting that shift is happening. The younger generations will only know what they want you to know, will only know what you're being told. You will never know anything else. You will never know a different perspective on life. You will only know what the one world government wants you to know. And yeah, and how to know shit's getting bad. Well, the sentiment used to be, look at all this shiny tech. At least here in the West, it was like, look at all this shiny technology that we have. Look at all these little extra things that we have that you don't need. Spend your money here. Now the sentiment is being talked about, well, look how much food we have. Look how much sustainability we have. If that shift in tone and sentiment of how they want you to spend your money, because let's be honest, America's economy relies off consumerism, so they have to find a way to get you to spend your money somehow. If that shift in tone is now being talked about, like, well, hey, look how much food we have. Look how much essentials we have. That is the warning that you need to be ready, because something big is going to happen. But anyway, I've said I'm going to end this video like 4 different times, but there's just so many little things I like to make jokes about and kind of have little tangents on. But a lot of these things I'm going to have to start dividing up into their own videos, unless you guys are going to, because no one wants to watch these long videos like this. I mean, some people do. I definitely like long videos, but I feel like when it's these kind of topics, I can shorten them down a lot better and go way more in depth in their own videos. But I just wanted to cover the Great Reset as a whole, because I think that was the better way to do it. But now I'm starting to think, I really should have just probably separated a lot of these things in their own videos. Maybe I'll do a video about UBI soon and why I think that is going to be coming very shortly here in the United States, probably by 2024. Anyway, peace. Y'all have a great day. Go outside. There's seriously stuff to do outside, you lazy kids. There's people to meet, dogs that need to be pet. And seriously though, find your purpose in life before it's too late, before they strip it all away and make you a drone. Because you got to enjoy these last 5 years before shit really changes. Because that's why I also PSA here. I don't want these videos to be all doom and gloom. They're more just to warn you, to prepare you so you can live a good life. It's not to make you sit there and panic and cry and whine and point the finger at somebody and say it's their fault. Nope. Just to give you a warning, to help you prepare for what's coming. Anyway. Your purpose is whatever you want it to be. If you choose to spend the rest of these 5 years playing video games and doing nothing else, there are people doing that. If you want to build rockets that are going to propel humanity into other worlds, there are people doing that too. If you simply just want to go be the greatest hiker in the universe and hike up all the world's tallest mountains, there are people doing that. But the truth is, the purpose of it all doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter.